我哋到咗
Members, this is the appointed time and we have a quorum. So let me welcome members to the meeting of the panel on development. This is a 3-hour meeting. Item 1. Information papers issued since the last meeting. You will find the information paper set out in the agenda. Next item. Items for discussion at the next meeting. Please refer to LC papers CB bracket 1904/2025 bracket 01, the list of outstanding items for discussion, and bracket 02, list of follow-up actions. The next regular meeting is scheduled for 2:30 p.m. the 24th of June, a Tuesday. The administration has proposed to discuss 2 items. 1. Increasing the supply of self-financing and privately funded student hostels to help establish the Study in Hong Kong brand. And 2. Development of 3D digital map. Members, do we agree to discuss these 2 items? Right. So these 2 items will be put on next meeting's agenda. And please note that the first item may take up more time. On to the agenda proper. Item 3, Public Works Project 3200GK Joint User Complex at Cheung Road, Sham, Shui. Let me invite the administration to come in and please refer to the papers set out in the agenda. Now, members, this is a funding proposal according to Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. Please disclose the nature of the interest before you speak, if direct or by indirect pecuniary interests are involved. Members, if you want to speak, please press the request to speak button now. I see 4 members in the queue. Let me welcome the administration to our meeting. We're joined by a big team of representatives from different government departments, as well as representatives from the Urban Renewal Authority and the Hospital Authority. Welcome to you all. All right, may I ask the administration to walk us through the paper with PowerPoint presentation, Mr. Gary Poon. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Now, at this meeting, we'd like to brief members on the Joint User Complex project at Cheung Road, Sham Shui Po, and we'd like to have members support and seek your views. This complex will accommodate the reprovisioned Cheung Sports Center. It will also have other facilities, including welfare and healthcare facilities. Now, the background of the Joint User Complex is that in 2021, the Urban Renewal Authority made a proposal about a redevelopment scheme in Cheung Street and Cheung Road, and that's one of the development schemes. I'll give you more details in a moment. There is also another site at Cheung Road. Now, for Site A, it was rezoned for residential developments. There will be 2 blocks to facilitate urban renewal. As for the old Cheung Sports Center, it was built in 1976, so it's a 50-year-old building. In terms of the standard of facilities and the design, they do not meet the prevailing standards. We'd like to reprovision the Cheung Sports Center to Site B, along with additional healthcare and welfare facilities, so that we can better consolidate the various uses and optimize the use of the space to provide services required by the community. Now, the joint user complex comprises 17 floors with a basement car park. The construction cost is roughly $2.9 billion. Having considered the estimates the cost estimates, we find this amount to be reasonable. So with members' support, we will proceed to the Public Works Subcommittee to seek endorsement so as to roll out this project. Now, I will stop here and I will now pass the floor to my colleague Belinda. Ms. Cheung. Thank you, Chairman. As mentioned by the Deputy Secretary, this joint user complex is related to the two development schemes proposed by the Urban Renewal Authority in September 2021. So if we take a look at this plan, you will see one of the development schemes at Kim Sin Lane and Fuk Hwa Street, and there is also another development scheme at Cheung Hwa Street and Cheung Sha Wan Road, including the old Cheung Sha Wan Sports Complex and Site B, where the joint user complex will be built. It was the URA's intention to redevelop aged buildings around Kim Shin Lane, and the government would also like to rebuild the old Cheung Sha Wan Sports Center. So seizing this opportunity, the government engaged URA to construct the joint user complex at Site B here, and also to reprovision other facilities there. Site A will be released, and there will also be a public open space here. There will be a comprehensive transformation of the area to benefit the local community. Site area. That's the area covered by the schemes. We'd like to take it forward to the Finance Committee. As you can see, this area marked in red indicates the location of the joint user complex. We'll also build an underpass that vehicular access that connects to the joint user complex from Lai Chi Kok Road. The site area covers 5,300 square meters. This picture shows you the current uses of the vicinity. Now, basically, the joint user complex will be built on what is now a sitting out area in Cheung Sha Wan Road. Part of this structure will be built on a railway protected area. And the Cheung Sha Wan Sports Center, as you can see, is in Site A, opposite the site in question. This joint user complex will comprise 17 floors. There will also be a basement car park. Parking spaces will be provided as an auxiliary. Major recreational facilities will be reprovisioned to the upper floors, marked in yellow. In the middle, we have those marked in blue. They are healthcare facilities, including the district health centers and community health centers operated by the hospital authority. Further down, we have welfare facilities, including elderly services and support for the mentally handicapped and the disabled. There is also an auxiliary car park at the basement floor. Earlier, we consulted the Sham Shui Po District Council and sought their support. The government will entrust the URA to take forward the project under a design and build model, and that tendering will be carried out for a contractor to construct the joint user complex. As mentioned, the old Cheung Sha Wan Sports Center was built 50 years ago in 1976. It's a single-story building, and it is now dilapidated. It is not an optimal use of the site. We'd like to reprovision the Cheung Sha Wan Sports Center to the joint user complex so as to modernize the facilities, which will include a main arena, fitness room, multi-purpose table tennis room, children's playroom, etc. And I'd like to emphasize that the old Cheung Sha Wan Sports Center will remain open until the new Cheung Sha Wan Sports Center is commissioned for seamless transition. Now, for healthcare facilities, as I mentioned, district health center will be set up there. In fact, the primary healthcare office or commission has an office in Shakib May Estate. It's a rented property. So upon completion of the JUC, this center will also be reprovisioned to the same building. In the long run, this center will provide some healthcare various services, including disease screening, health risk assessments, etc. The community health center of the hospital authority will also be reprovisioned to the JUC. It will provide various services such as interdisciplinary disease management and also medical consultation services. For welfare facilities, childcare services will be provided to cater for the needs of parents. We also have elderly services such as daycare center for the elderly and district elderly community center. For mentally handicapped persons, there are different hostel places to meet the needs of mentally handicapped persons of various needs. There will also be an integrated vocational rehabilitation services center as well as an urban hostel for single persons. The JUC will also house a number of offices of government departments, mostly scattered across different locations in the district, including the SWD and LCSD. Through consolidating these government departments, we seek to enhance synergy and improve overall efficiency. And it will also be convenient for users to access services in the same building. Now, about the construction cost, we propose to seek funding approval from the FC for about 2.918 billion in MOD prices. The URA has initiated parallel tendering. We hope to start the work as soon as possible, and in fact the proposed amount already reflects the return tender price. We'd like to have members' support, and with your support we will submit this item to Public Works Subcommittee to upgrade the project to Category A, and with funding approval from FC, the URA will grant the relevant contracts, and the construction will take 4.5 years to complete. Thank you, Chair. Now, I'd like to give the Development Bureau this opportunity to explain to the public. Although there are URA projects in parallel, this joint user complex, however, is a standalone item. Can you tell us why the government has decided not to build the complex on its own? You have the floor. Thank you, Chair. As we said at the outset, this joint user complex is related to a number of development projects in Cheung by the URA. We'd like to have proper consolidation and replanning so as to revamp aged facilities and also provide additional facilities. We have asked the URA to help us because of the following. After proposing the projects in 2021, the URA has actively participated in the planning process, including the joint user complex. In fact, joint user complex is related to sites A and B, as I mentioned. The URA made an application with the Town Planning Board for rezoning approval. So the URA is quite familiar with the special circumstances of the district as well as the needs of the local community. The URA must demolish the old Cheung Sports Center, which is quite old and dilapidated at the moment, at Site A in order to proceed to residential development. So it will be reprovisioned to Site B to provide better services, because at Site B, not only will the sports center be built, there will also be additional services for healthcare and welfare. This will enhance the overall efficiency. At Site B, apart from the joint user complex, there is also a public open space, as you can see in this slide. So bundling the works together will enhance cost effectiveness. There will also be better synergy. So in terms of integrity of the design and smooth implementation of works, compression of construction, timetable, as well as costs, we have asked the URA to help.
So Site A will take longer to complete. You hope that for Site A, you'd like to cover the sports center so that Site A would see demolition of the old building. Chairman, indeed, this is our consideration. We need to reprovision the sports center before the site would be released for the URA development. We hope that this can be implemented as soon as possible, so the joint user complex will be built as soon as possible. If they want to get Site A for redevelopment, they should be able to complete the joint user complex as soon as possible. There are 5 members on the list: Mr. Andrew Lam, Vice Chair; Mr. Tony J; Mr. Vincent Cheung; Dr. Wendy Hong; and Mr. Frankie Yik. Mr. Andrew Lam, 4 minutes, please. Thank you. Thanks very much for the first question. The administration has explained sufficiently clear. I think the key thing is the joint user complex. The URA is the agent for that. Whether it is undertaken by the government or the URA, it's not really something for discussion today. So I'd like to focus on the 3 functions of the joint user complex. Now, the panel has not really discussed these 3 functions. In terms of sports facilities, there are 400-seat retractable spectator stand. Now, these will have some implications on the price tag for sure. So will the department concerned elaborate further why there is a need for that? Second, today we're saying that Site B is not only about the joint user complex. There is also a park, and there is also the basement for parking purposes. So how many parking spaces will be provided? Who will be using them? Today, on many occasions, we talk about the parking spaces, not just for this particular project. In many places, we're running out of parking spaces. Now, with such a large park, this is 5,300 square meters, and I'm sure that the park is going to be larger than that. Why don't you provide some parking facilities there? You don't really have to excavate down the ground. You may have 2 or 3 meters high kind of parking facilities in addition to the park. Have you ever considered the parking facilities there? Mr. Poon? Chairman, thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Lam, for the observation and the question. About the sports center, now for new sports centers, they come with 2 basketball courts and all the ancillary facilities, like the space for children, children's playroom and multi-purpose activity rooms, and so on. When we reprovision the Cheung Sports Center, we'll have to stick to the latest standards. So we're not really adding any luxurious items to the list, so members can rest assured that. As to the spectator stand, the sports center is located on the top floor, and there is enough headroom for ball games to take place. So we would expect some kind of spectator stand for people to enjoy the games, just like in this conference room. And we have a space up there for people to observe the meeting. The 400 seat, as we understand from the LCSD, is not a huge number. It is a basic provision. As we can imagine, we have 2 basketball courts, so we can have 4 teams of playing at one time, and you have the coaches, you have the fans. So 400 seat represents the basic needs for that. The second question, in connection with parking facilities, at the basement there is a floor of parking facilities with 60 parking spaces for the users of the building, like the government departments and other users. We need the basement car park because there is such a need for the joint user complex, and on the ground level we need to have the loading and loading facilities, and we need to have a space for the ambulances. So the ground floor will be taken up by the users that I mentioned. Mr. Lam also mentioned other parking spaces. My understanding is that on Site A, when URA is taking forward its own project, there will also be public parking spaces, 50 in number, and then we'll make available more parking spaces for Sam Shui Po district. Thank you. Well, for the users of the complex, indeed, they do need space for loading and unloading passengers. And other than parking needs, they need to have spaces for loading and unloading. Do you have any or enough room for that? In open space, I think you should be more pragmatic. Maybe you can set aside some area for on-site parking. Chairman, for Site B, where the joint user complex is located, is in fact an open space at the moment. And we're using this for the purposes of joint user complex. And we can integrate the open space in the district. So outside Site B, we will be reinstating the open space there in order to make sure that upon completion of the entire project, the open space will not be diminished in area. So when URA did the consultation, this is very much the aspirations expressed. We make use of that particular site on condition that the public open space will not be compromised. So this is something that has been factored in the equation. Well, the question is, how can you strike a balance? How much of the open space can be set aside? And the users of the complex that would need space for picking up and setting down passengers, the open space, how much is enough? I think you have to make sure that the complex will be able to serve its purpose and make it convenient for the goers? That's the question, Chairman. As a result of this project, the amount of open space will not be getting any less. But what if the open space is less? If there is such a need, parking need for the complex? Well, I defer to the URA for some supplement. So I've taken up the Vice Chair's time. Beg your pardon. Well, thank you very much. I thank the Development Bureau's reply. In the joint user complex, there are many different users. We do have the loading and unloading spaces on the ground floor. All these spaces are intended for those in need. We also have a taxi rank. So the people in need would be able to unload or set down passengers to use this complex. Mr. Lam, Chairman, I'm saying that Site B includes the open space, which is far larger than the complex. And if you have one floor of car park, it would be a couple of, 10 meters or so, and you would have loads more parking spaces while keeping the open space. So my question is, have you ever considered this? I'm not suggesting that you only cater for the needs of the users of the complex. We're running out of parking spaces all over Hong Kong. Have you considered that? Are you going to be doing it? I'd like to get a reply there. I go along with you, Chairman. It's all a matter of striking a balance. You have the open space there, and you do have the flexibility involved. So have you ever considered this? If not, why not? Or it's taken a little bit longer, but this is well worth some discussion. Chairman, if I may respond here, sites A and B, I think the URA is really maximizing the site potential. We do fully appreciate members' aspirations for more parking spaces. So in Site A, when URA takes up the project, there will be provision of parking spaces there as well. Mr. Tony J. Chairman, thank you. First, some decoration here. I am non-executive director of the URA. Now, on this project, I don't have any personal pecuniary interest involved. In terms of urban renewal and how we can maximize the potential of the site, this sports center was built in 1976, been around for decades. Now, how can we take full advantage of the site for better use? I do support this project in principle. This is about design and build. We are concerned that you do have to serve the functions, and in the design, do you have any particular requirements there? Or is it the case that you give the URA a free rein in terms of design, that the Chairman and Vice Chair are concerned about the utilization of the open space? So do you have any specific requirements there? Now, we tend to go for design and build path these days. I'm sure that you must have some framework. You're not really giving them absolute free rein there. You may not have the details with you right now, but you might wish to let us have some supplementary information after the meeting, like the greenery, the open space. I'm sure there must be some requirements. Indeed.
Now, my second question is this. As the paper suggests, the URA will be responsible for management and project supervision, and that means 9.6%. Now, Chairman, you may recall that members previously showed concern about the percentage. Sometimes it's 12.5%, and if my memory serves me right, for the Hong Kong Airport Authority, it's another figure. So here it's 9.6%. Can you explain the rationale and what should be the right figure? My last point is this, that this project entails a cost of close to $3 billion. Now, in principle, I'm not going to say whether I support this project or not. I do hope that by the time the item reaches the Public Works Committee or the Finance Committee, more information can be provided, because $3 billion sounds a staggering sum. Right. Thank you, Chairman. I take the last question first about the $2.9 billion that reflects the return tender price. And we also examined this proposed figure internally. And this sum is actually on a par with the cost for building other similar joint user complexes. So I thank the member for the reminder. We will provide more information to the Public Works Subcommittee. The second question is about management and supervision. Now, this project will be undertaken by the Urban Renewal Authority. We carefully considered the scope to be undertaken by the URA. And the scope is not the same as the usual scope for other organizations. So we can't just copy from another project. We need to tailor-made the scope and the figures for this project. So we've considered the services to be provided by the URA before arriving at this figure. Going back to the first question, a special request. I can give URA the floor in a moment, but let me just say that by adopting the design and build model, we seek to drive down construction costs. We want design and construction to go hand in hand for the JUC and for the public open space, so as to compress the schedule as much as we can. Of course, we need to finalize the design before works actually commence. But if need be, we can fine-tune the proposal as we go along without compromising the work schedule of the joint user complex. So that is one way of shortening construction time. I'll now give the floor to the URA. Thank you, Tony, for the question. About design and build, I think Mr. Poon already offered an explanation. And like he said, we'd like to have concurrent implementation of the design and construction. And we estimate that construction time can be compressed or can be shortened by 11 or 12 months. And also to answer Tony's question on specifications, before we issued the tender document, we already consulted different government departments about the size requirement, the users and their design suggestions, and the service needs of their clients. And we've included all the ideas in the tender document, along with requirements on the use of materials. So it's for the bidder to return a bid on the basis of their own design, which is deemed to be the most cost-effective way. Chairman, well, I think this is a common concern. It's not just about the joint user complex. There are also facilities in the vicinity, including the public open space. So the whole site should be considered in a more comprehensive manner. You should consult departments about, for example, loading and unloading areas and also parking spaces. my concern is that there is this railway protected zone here. I don't know whether there is any implication. This is, after all, a major project. It's a major redevelopment project. So I think we should forge consensus on this design and build model. So you should make sure that all the requests are noted, all the concerns are noted, especially, say, parking spaces. If no additional parking spaces are provided here, then when you redevelop another site in the future, there may be extra costs because of additional floors or building of a basement to accommodate a car park. Right, thank you, Tony, for the comments. I don't think the paper submitted today comes with a proper building plan. We have this sectional view of the proposed complex, the site plan, as well as an impression drawing. Now, you mentioned that the auxiliary car park will comprise 60 parking spaces, so it will be built underground. But this car park will only serve government vehicles and other service vehicles. There is a loading unloading area at grade. And also pick-up drop-off area for users. Despite all the talk, I don't see anything included in your plan. So when you submit the item to the Public Works Subcommittee, please make sure that this information will be provided. It's rather conceptual at this stage. If you're not able to give us details today, please make sure that these details are included in the supplementary paper before the item goes to the Public Works Subcommittee. Yes, indeed, about the design features at grade, we'll provide supplementary information to the Public Works Subcommittee. As I heard, questions were raised just now about whether the facilities, the parking spaces could meet the needs of joint user complex users. So if you're indeed short of space, perhaps you can scale back the public open space. That shouldn't have any impact. This will only do good to the local community and the local residents. Mr. Vincent Cheung, Chairman, I support this joint user complex of Cheung Sha Wan Road. Cheung Sha Wan is short of community facilities, so the joint user complex is a response to the local community's needs. And for the old Cheung Sha Wan Sports Center, I don't think the site has been put to optimal use. So through the arrangement, we can maximize the potential. I see that this joint user complex comprises different services for healthcare, for welfare, and other recreational facilities. Can you explain the selection process? But first, I need to declare that I was also an NED of URA. Say on welfare facilities, we've been asking for a community center for ethnic minorities because of the high demand. In the end, you decided not to go ahead with this idea and instead opt for an urban hostel for single persons. In fact, there are still hostel places available for the Henghua Mansion Hostel. Now, the next point is about healthcare services. As I understand, you have GOPC and other healthcare services. I think that different access arrangements should be made because the lifts will become very crowded. So that's the second question. Third question, parking spaces. Well, I think every jogger in Kowloon would use this joint user complex in the future, so will be a huge demand for parking spaces. And I see this line marked in red. It is the entrance exit at facing Changsharan Road, and there is also another one on the right hand side. Is it possible to provide more parking spaces on that side? Is it possible to have 2 or 3 stories here? Like other members have said, I do think there is a need for more parking spaces to meet the demand. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Cheung, for the questions. I'll give the floor to the HA or the Health Bureau to take the question on healthcare services. And about the urban hostel for single persons, I'll give the floor to the Social Welfare Department later. I would like to explain, however, in selecting the facilities to be accommodated in a joint user complex, we have gone through the demand for individual districts, and seizing this opportunity, we have approached different service units. After they tell us their demands, we will carefully examine whether these demands are genuine, and then we will consider the reasonableness, and we'll try to make sure that the facilities will also be provided on the basis of the planning standards. About parking spaces, like Mr. Vincent Chang just now said, between the hard-pitched car park and the sports ground, there is a passageway. And indeed, parking can be provided here. But after all, these are outdoor facilities separated by a passageway. It's not a proper long-term design to put parking spaces here, and that is why the design of the joint user complex is such that there is a vehicular access on the other side. So for the majority of users, they can either get off the bus along Changshawan Road or come up from Changshawan Station or Lai Chi Kok Station. Having regard to the busy traffic along Changshawan Road, that is why this site is of a funnel shape for the vehicular access to be provided at Lai Chi Kok Road. Now I'll give the floor to the Social Welfare Department. Mr. Yong. Thank you for the question. The Social Welfare Department on a regular basis identify different locations to provide appropriate welfare facilities. Now, for the urban hostel for single persons, we seek to provide short-term accommodation services to needy persons who are aged or in weak health but are able to look after themselves. As for the counseling services and long-term accommodation, the Audit Commission already recommended that subsidized hostels be provided for those in need, and that is why in response to the recommendation, we set up this hostel in Sham Shui Po. As in the end of April 2025, through the 3 outreach teams, we reach out to about 760 street sleepers. 150 of them lived in Sham Shui Po. That's about 20%. And Sham Shui Po is the area in Hong Kong where many street sleepers gather, and that is why we see this service gap for urban hostels to be provided here. For urban hostel for single persons, we seek to provide short-term accommodation for those aged below 60. For those who are above the age of 60, other welfare arrangements will be provided through the Social Welfare Department. For those who are below 60, we want to plug this service gap by providing this urban hostel for them. Next, I'd like to give the floor to the HA.
主席，
Mr. Low. Chairman, the member asked the question about the utilization of the elevator. In this joint user building, we accommodate the needs of various departments. So in the URA's contract, we'll make sure that we can use the elevator design to meet the needs of the users. Chairman, I don't have any issue with the uses of the complex, although you ought to listen to the public views. There is some space for government offices, and there are community centers. Now, there are some spaces, some offices that will be moved to the joint user complex. How are you going to use the original space there? I don't think there is an objection to the joint user complex. But before you go to the PWSC, you ought to make available details like the configuration of the elevators, the volume of people using them, and there are different uses put to this complex, and the demand for loading and unloading will be very high. Now, people may not be walking all the way from the MTR station. Now, you have the intellectually impaired, the persons with disabilities. They do need to go there by transport. And you also have the rehab, integrated vocational rehab center. You don't expect the senior folks to walk all the way, a long way to this complex. They do need to turn up there by special transport. So are the facilities anywhere sufficient? If not, then the open space can be, or some of the open space can be set aside for parking purposes. These are practical issues. Dr. Wendy Hong, Chairman, thank you. I've got two questions. First, about the pricing. I think we need to talk about this repeatedly. Now, this Cheung joint user complex is costing us $2.9 billion. The government is telling us that this is reasonable. Now, Hong Kong ranks top in Asia in terms of the pricing. Area 67, the joint user building, it is $3.2 billion. It is really more or less the same. At that time, people complained that this is too expensive. Now, the Taipo complex, it was $930 million. In a decade or so, it's gone up by 3 times. Now, the government said that they're using the index, which has gone up by 3-fold over the years. Now, $3 billion for this joint user complex, to me, is unreasonably pricey. The construction index has gone up so much. We don't just talk about it. I hope that the administration will make improvement. The approval procedures are so complex and cumbersome, and it would take an awful long time. And second, in terms of design, the works department tends to be overcautious in order that they will not make any mistakes. Now we have to make sure that everything is 100% safe. But if you want to make it 120 or 200% safe, then it would be too costly. So I think the government should do something to keep down the construction costs. I hope that the administration would announce the improvement measures. Second, the administration will have to pay for the management to the URA $900 million or 9.6%. Now the Cheung project, it was $3.2 billion. It was only 0.4% by comparison. Now we're talking about 9.6% in terms of management. Why is it that there is such a huge increase? What about the other cost contingency and so on? According to the administration, the information provided by the administration is not anywhere near sufficient. Mr. Tsuen, thank you very much, Dr. Hong. About the construction costs, we appreciate the members are concerned about the price tag. We did have some discussion at other meetings. The Works Department is also alive to members' concerns. We will respond to that. As to the vetting procedures, how can we streamline the procedures and enhance the efficiency? And this is something that we have been doing over the years. We can always get it better. We can always do it better. We will try to see where we can do faster or better. We heard what members have to say. As regards the ERA supervising the project, and there is a charge, there is a fee to be charged. Perhaps I can defer to the URA in this regard. But let me supplement this. The URA is a work agent appointed by the administration, and they really have to carry out the work, the tendering, the assessment of tender, the site supervision to ensure compliance. They do have an important role to play here. Perhaps I defer to the URA regarding the details. Mr. Leung. Chairman, thank you. But the 9.6%, the entrustment fees, what is the URA doing here? That when we carry out the entrustment work, it is 12.5% of the construction cost. Now the government is adopting this design and build, and 2.9% of the design cost would be taken out. So that's why it is 9.6%. Now, what does it entail now for this 9.6%? We have the advanced work, like we retain the quantity surveyors and the design team, and also we've conducted a feasibility study, and the advanced surveying work will also be included. When the contract is awarded, we have to hire people, we have to hire the supervisory team, and we have to incur the supervision charges. Now we have conducted some estimates, and this is commensurate with the fees that will be incurred. Thank you. I suggested in the supplementary paper to the PWSC, you ought to give us some analysis of the breakdowns. Dr. Hong talked about the percentage. It may not be directly comparable. The other project is 0.4%. I don't think it's directly comparable. According to some papers we submitted, you have made things really clear when we compare compared with projects of similar magnitude. The PwC members will pose questions like this for sure, so get prepared. Mr. Frankie Yick, Chairman. This is called the Joint User Complex. We have the recreational and social welfare facilities. I'm really all in support, but I am a little bit disappointed. Members, if you recall, over the past decade, we keep saying that we're running short of car parking spaces in Hong Kong, and we keep saying that the government should seize the opportunities of building new projects to make available sufficient car parks, but you've never done this ever. Looking at the paper, I think this is absurd. You have 60 parking spaces mainly for those working in this complex. You point at this scenario, you have the intellectually impaired and people with disabilities. Now, people might not find it convenient to take public transport. If I have to drive the people there, that you may say that you have the loading and unloading bays. I mean, do you expect me to sit down the disabled and park the car and come back to fetch him? I mean, the design is really weird. Dr. Low, you've got a point there. Maybe you can deck over the open space. You provide all the recreational facilities, and underneath you provide the parking spaces. We're not talking about any reduction in the recreational facilities. That this is wholly disappointing. We keep talking about this for a decade, and I mean, it seems that the government is saying that it's none of their business. Mr. Poon, Chairman, thanks very much, Mr. Yick, for the observation. Every time we consider this project, we do consider the need for parking. We have 60 ancillary parking spaces there in this complex. We consider the facilities for the severely mentally handicapped and moderately mentally handicapped, and there are 60 ancillary parking spaces, and they are enough for the users. Perhaps I can defer to the SWD. Indeed, some people with disabilities who find it difficult to go there on their own, they may not be able to turn up there by bus or by MTR. SWD can supplement in a moment, but having said that, when the URA is designing the whole thing, they should make the most of this site. And we're not just talking about these 60 parking spaces. In Site A, as I said, there are 50 public parking spaces made available for public use, and they're non-existent at the moment. This is an old sports center in Cheung. Now, when the URA is carrying out the urban renewal or urban regeneration, parking spaces would figure prominently in their consideration. I defer to the SWD, Mr. Cheung, regarding the arrangement. Thank you. Every single day there are two types of people. The children below 3 are using the childcare center, and also the elderly people using the daycare centers for the elderly. They are wheelchair bound, some of them. We do have the coach that would take them all the way to the complex, and we have the carers looking after the passengers when they get on or off the bus or the coach. Now we have the hostels for the moderately mentally handicapped, the severely mentally handicapped. We have the day care center. We have the day activity center. and the integrated vocational rehab center. Now, for the mentally handicapped center, the people are living in the center, and they would turn up at the rehab center during the day, and they would be moving up and down the building, maybe different floors. Well, definitely there will be a need for them to leave the complex to go somewhere else. They said that the activities are taking place inside the complex. There is no need for the parking spaces. I do appreciate that, but definitely there would be times when they leave the complex.
For government departments which will use the joint user complex, don't support the design for the sake of seeking support from us, because you won't get any sympathy if a problem arises later. Right, understood. There may be some day-to-day activities. Perhaps they are on home release. There may be a need to see a doctor, and there is therefore a need to use the car park. But we have the drop-off pickup area which can serve these vans. Mr. Frankie Yick, I need to interject. Don't tell me that you have a pickup drop-off area. Well, I have somebody at home who requires care, and each time we need two people to escort the family member, because because somebody will have to look after the car. Well, I think that this explanation doesn't hold water. There is something wrong with the design. I really don't know how you can explain away at the Public Works Subcommittee. Anything to add, Mr. Poon? Chairman, in terms of design of the JUC, we have had full regard to the needs of service users. But anyway, we'll go back and mull it over to see how we can better suit the needs of service users in the future. Right, that means you have carefully considered your design, and yet you're not able to answer any of these questions here. Mr. Frankie Ying. Well, just now Mr. Poon said that he would improve it next time, but I'll say no next time if you don't improve the proposal. That's why we've made suggestions, for example, release some of the space in the public open space for parking spaces. As for these government departments, don't just let it go, because you will bear the brunt when the rubber hits the ground. You'll face criticisms. Mr. Andrew Lam. Supposing you have the panel's support for the item to be submitted to the Public Works Subcommittee, I hope that there'll be information about the cost of the three major functions of this JUC, and also how costs are apportioned in terms of management and operation, etc. Now, coming back to the point about the pickup drop-off area, like the chairman said, the public open space is too big. I want to make it clear. Well, the JUC has an area of floor area of 5,300 square meters, and this figure doesn't cover the public open space. So the public open space will come under the URA's management as part of Site A. So there will be a lot of flexibility in its design. You can have a one-story car park, and the site can also accommodate a ramp, and you can have some compensatory planting there, and users of this public open space will not be affected. This is exactly the design adopted in Cheung. At the Central Park, there is a two-story car park, so the function of the park will not be compromised. It's a matter of the will, whether you will consider our suggestions, because you still have time to address the flaws in the design of the JUC. So I really hope that you will give it some careful thought. Well, today's focus is on the joint user complex, so perhaps we should all focus on this first. But you should not let this opportunity go to waste if you're able to make use of the adjoining site to serve your purpose. Any response? Yes, Chairman, many members have talked about the needs of JUC users and the need for parking spaces or pick-up drop-off points. We'll go back and consider all these suggestions. More importantly, we need to make sure that users of the JUC's needs are met. So we'll go back and invite the government departments to go through the proposal again. If there is indeed a need for more parking spaces, then we might consider taking up part of the POS space for the provision of parking. And we will give you more details at the Public Works Subcommittee. I'd also like to supplement. Now, users of this JUC will comprise mentally handicapped, disabled, and also users of your recreational facilities. You will need to move stuff around, and that is why I emphasize, since the JUC will accommodate different services, there should be proper a proper provision of supporting facilities to meet the various needs of users. Say for recreational and sports facilities, there must be a proper loading unloading area for the movement of equipment, for example. I think that the public will understand if part of the POS is used for parking. Don't just give us perfunctory replies. As chair, I'm supposed to only preside over the meeting. I'm sorry I got quite agitated because I'm concerned about the needs of future users of the JUC. I think that proper planning is warranted. If there are no other questions, we will wrap up the discussion of this item. Now, my impression is that there is general support of the proposal, and members also made suggestions about the design of the JUC. And please make sure that you will give all these ideas some thoughts so as to prepare for the Public Works Subcommittee. Item 4. Long-term flood and shoreline management integrated strategies to cope with climate change. You'll find the paper set out in the agenda, and I see that the administration is coming in. I see that 6 members are in the queue. Right. Let's start. If the administration is ready, let me welcome government officials to our meeting. I understand there is a PowerPoint presentation. I'll ask the Undersecretary to say a few words. First, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to brief members on the long-term flood and shoreline management integrated strategies to cope with climate change. Because of extreme weather events and the climate change, we need to think ahead, and we ask the Drainage Services Department and the CDD to start 2 studies, respectively, in 2022 to propose medium and long-term management strategies to cope with floods and also shoreline management. I'll now give the floor to the departments. They will unpack for you with the aid of a PowerPoint presentation. Right, I represent the Drainage Services Department. Right, Ms. Esther Yun. I'd like to introduce to members the long-term flood and shoreline management integrated strategies. We need to first get an understanding of the reasons of flooding. We have an annual average rainfall of about 2,400 millimeters, and one of the highest among the cities in the Pacific Rim. And 80% of the rainfall happened between May and September in a year. The torrential rain poses a major challenge to us. In fact, we had a torrential rain events on the 7th and the 8th of September 2023. It was a record-breaking level of 158.1 millimeters, and for the 12-hour rainfall level, it exceeded 600 millimeters. That's 1/4 of the average monthly rainfall. And during rainstorms, there could be stormwater surges and a rise in sea level. And with poor drainage capacity, there could be seawater backflow and flooding. We have a hilly terrain in Hong Kong. A large amount of rainfall during stormy seasons would cause a major problem. And we have been mounting 3 strategies in light of the topography in Hong Kong to cope with this problem. That's stormwater interception, flood storage, and drainage improvement. We seek to enhance our resilience. For example, we have a powerful drainage facility in Yunnan Nala to cope with flood. In terms of interception, we've built a channel for intercepting service runoff from the hills and for direct discharge of the stormwater into the sea. And we implemented the drainage improvement works project since 1989, and on an orderly basis, we've reviewed all the systems to take forward improvement works. Now, significant results have been achieved, but in light of the frequent extreme weather events in recent years, we must not let our guard down, and that is why in 2022 we conducted a study, and we also conducted a holistic review. We also reviewed the international standards in formulating of our flood management strategies. In terms of flood management standards, we're on a par with cities such as cities in the mainland and other major cities in the world. On combating climate change, our study includes consideration of the intermediate and very high greenhouse gas emission scenarios. Now, in the intermediate greenhouse gas emission scenario, at mid-century, the climate change impacts for Hong Kong is insignificant. However, towards the end of the century, we may need to take a more forward-looking approach in analyzing the scenarios. Apart from raising the parameters in the stormwater drainage manual in light of a rise in seawater level and increased rainfall due to climate change, in September 2023, we recorded an extreme weather event, and that there might be more frequent and more torrential rain events. Together with uncertainties of the brought about by climate change in the long run, there is a consensus among countries in the world, and that we cannot use a single prong to tackle flooding. There must be a comprehensive strategy, and that means ARM, adaptation, resilience, and management. Now, for rehabilitation. There are 15 related projects being carried out by the Drainage Services Department. We envisage that these projects will be completed by 2030. However, because of the high level of uncertainty brought about by the climate change at mid-century, we need to plan proactively drainage improvement works. We will continue to monitor the latest trend of climate change. On resilience, we adopt temporary or non-structural measures to control flood risks or reduce flooding impact for speedy society recovery. Now, one important element is floodable area. Now, it's single-site multiple use concept to provide for increased flooding capacity. For example, for phase 2 of Shui NDA and also public open space nearby, it's for the public enjoyment at normal times, but during extreme weather events, it can be used as stormwater storage.
The DSD is also promoting the blue-green drainage infrastructure, like the rooftop garden, the rain harvesting system. All these would reduce the runoff from the rainfall. We also have different flood barriers to guard against flooding. In Taiwan and Yunbon, we have adopted the dismountable flood barriers. In our study from the mainland and overseas, we have introduced new flood barriers. These new generation facilities are automatic, mechanical, more flexible, more efficient to cater for different scenarios. We can see all these different flood barriers. We will make sure that the drainage is cleared. As a matter of urgency, we update the design manual. We mount publicity and education to heighten public awareness of flood management. In terms of emergency response, when the observatory predicts torrential downpour or a rainstorm warning has been issued, the DSD will be deploying teams to inspect 240 flood-prone areas. Since 2023, since the torrential downpour, we have increased the team from 70 to 180 in 2025. The emergency operation base has increased from 13 to the current 30 plus. All these have achieved tangible results. So in 2024, despite the flooding, we managed to complete the task in 1 or 2 hours. We're also resorting to innovative technology to enhance the flood management work. We are using the AI monitoring system to enhance the detection and prediction of floods. We're also developing new robotics to deal with the pumping and drainage purposes. This would enhance the safety of the frontline staff. We have introduced the waiting line arrangement. We have installed the sensors on the roadside, and the roads are clearly marked, and the sensor would monitor the depth of flood water and for action to be taken on an emergency basis. In terms of standard, we have updated the rainfall standard for stormwater drainage manual. We've also promulgated the guidelines on flood resilience. We will incorporate this into the Hong Kong planning standard and guidelines. In terms of long-term planning, we will introduce flooding resilience concept. When the plan is implemented, we need to bring on board all the stakeholders and the members of the public. So we will be meeting the stakeholders during black storm warning or T8 or above. We would play the video of Mr. and Miss weather forecast. We will also have guided tour of the work of the DSD. We also have open day and talks by professional bodies. We also meet with the experts from overseas and APIs to heighten awareness of these extreme weathers. And in the long term, there is uncertainty and unpredictability of the weather. We will review the risk of flooding and come up with appropriate measures to mitigate the risks. In the long term, we will monitor the latest trend regarding climate change and adopt the principle of progressive adaptive approach and ARM approach to increase Hong Kong's resilience against flooding. Mr. Cheung? Chairman, thank you. I'm going to brief members on the integrated shoreline management strategies on the part of the CEDD. We have artificial and natural shorelines of 1,000 kilometers. Because of our geographical location, Hong Kong is on the receiving end of storm surges and typhoon. And this is bringing challenges to the management of flooding in Hong Kong. We have already updated the Port Works design manual. During mid-century and end of century, we've already predicted the situation. We've also taken into account the Hartow and Mangkut and introduced new parameters. We're adopting the progressive adaptive approach to predict the weather and to take account of the uncertainty. And in 2021, we have completed the coastal hazards study. And in 2022, for 26 low-lying and windy residential locations, we are carrying out improvement work to cope with the potential risks to ensure safety. 16 areas have been completed. For the remainder, they will be completed progressively in 2027. And in 2024, we have completed the SMP, Study on Shoreline Management Plan. This would take into account the strategies for mid-century and end of this century. In the light of experience locally and overseas, there are 4 strategies. The first one is no active intervention. We retain the existing shoreline. Second, we hold the line. We maintain or enhance the coastal defense along existing shoreline. And there are other 2 strategies that would involve more complicated improvement work. The first one is managed realignment, and that is to locate the coastal defense line further inland and also advance the line, meaning new coastal defense line seaward. We look at the shoreline in Hong Kong, topography, the risk, the land use, the cost effectiveness. We propose that we adopt the hold the line approach. We don't have to move the defense line further inland or further out into the sea, and that would enable us to cater for the intermediate and very high greenhouse gas emission scenarios. We'll also be working with the stakeholders to carry out advanced preparation in 11 areas to plug the gap and also to tackle the risks by the middle part of the century. As my colleague said a moment ago, we also have to have ARM, adaptation, resilience, and management to cater for the risks. We have several lines of defense under adaptation and resilience. We will improve the wave walls And we're going to have the second line of defense, like the dismountable flood barriers. And for important buildings, we have the third line defense to provide the dismountable flood barriers. We also have the emergency plan and to heighten public awareness about flooding. These are just as important. Other than mid-century, the study also looked at 2100, that's the end of the century. All these measures should be able to cope with the coastal risks. But under very high greenhouse gas emission scenario, like the decarbonization in different parts of the world, does not achieve good results, and the greenhouse gas is increasing threefold. And in this pessimistic situation in Taiwan and Lake Yunbun, by the end of the century, they're likely to be on the receiving end of greater impact. So with these response measures, by the middle part of the century, we will be monitoring the development and decide on the long-term measure for these two locations, like whether we need to have the seaward extension of the coastal defense. And for the coastal area, we have the manual to enhance the stakeholders' ability to defend against flooding. And all these will be incorporated into the Hong Kong Planning and Standard of Guidelines, and the stakeholders would be able to consider what the mitigating measures in a systematic manner. There will be more publicity and education to enhance the awareness of the stakeholders, and the members of the public will also be comparing notes with experts locally and overseas to strengthen our measures. Thank you. So in principle, you have looked at different places, and you can adopt this strategy of hold the line for high-risk areas. Advance the line strategy might be needed. Do you need to locate a coastal defense line further inland? And I don't think there is any need for the time being. Now, for the two approaches, locate the defense line further inland or further seaward, it would take 3 times the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, for the natural shoreline, we adopt no active intervention. We're not building any artificial defenses there, so that would be quite sufficient. Now, for remote beaches, there may not be a need for any intervention. Now, if there's high tide, they may be subject to some impacts. Some of them may have ecological value. If we do anything about it, we may undermine the ecological value. There are 7 members on the list: Ms. Chen Yue-ming, Mr. Tony J., Mr. Lamson Keung, Mr. Kenneth Lau, Dr. Wendy Hong, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Bill Tang, Mr. Perry Yu, and Mr. Chen Han Ben. Ms. Chen Yue-ming, 4 minutes, please. I thank the administration for updating the stormwater drainage manual in the light of the climate change, and we can withstand 200 years return a kind of rainfall in Tin Shui Wai. We'll be able to achieve that. There are 2 questions, if I may. Now, with Northern Metropolis coming down the track, we don't have to be worried about flooding, but there are NDAs for which the advanced work has not been completed. Sun Tin Ta Kwu Ling are cases in point, and they will be developed in phases. There is a lot of brownfield site operators that will have to be moved, and we have a lot of the sites are paved in concrete, and flooding is very much the order of the day, in particular in Taguling, in rural areas and in the NDAs, because the flood prevention has not been initiated. Do you have any short-term measures to mitigate the impact arising from flooding? And are you going to be activating the drainage system in the eastern part of the northern metropolis?
農業優
Second question, another policy bureau floated the proposal of agriculture priority areas. Most of the locations are in the rural areas of the new territories. They are also black spots of flooding. As I understand that about this policy, no extra resources have been reserved to improve drainage. So as we discuss flood management strategy to combat climate change, I'd like to see whether there is any discussion with the relevant policy bureau, such as the Environment and Ecology Bureau, about this policy so as to improve drainage infrastructure near the agriculture priority areas. Right. Thank you. I think I will answer one of the questions about the Northern Metropolis or other areas not yet developed and our flood management. Now, of course, drainage should be provided for Northern Metropolis NDA, but you may recall for other areas not covered by the NDA, such as Yuen Long New Town, is a developed site. We also sought funding approval from LegCo to improve the stormwater drainage system and also the channels alignment. So as for places such as Takuling, it's not yet developed, but we still will review the stormwater drainage arrangement to prevent flooding. Now, for Northern Metropolis, we understand some brownfield operations will be affected, but these are essential economic activities. They should be reprovisioned to suitable locations. Ms. Chan's concern is whether they will be affected by flooding. Now, they need to seek approval from Town Planning Board, which means the project will cover drainage works as well. So, including Northern Metropolis and other areas, if need be, we will improve stormwater drainage. The next question relates to the EEB, is about the agriculture priority areas. We're in close liaison with that policy bureau. As we take forward the drainage works, we will put our heads together. We consider the different land uses, such as farmland. Ms. Chen Yutming may have this recollection. You complained about flooding in one of the agricultural areas, and we indeed helped out we put in place measures to prevent flooding. For the agriculture priority areas, I think it comes under the EEB's portfolio, so I have nothing to add for the time being, except to say that we keep in close liaison with the Bureau. For agricultural sites, we also handle them very carefully because flooding would affect the crop production. So we'll continue to liaise with the EEB on this matter. Next, Mr. Tony Che. Thank you, Chairman. It is necessary to enhance our resilience against flooding in order to cope with climate change, and a progressive adaptive approach should be taken, and I'm in full support of that. My point is this: we need to leverage on the professional knowledge of the property management sector. I understand that the administration has stepped up the communication with the sector. Now, the property management sector can help residents and shop owners when it comes to rainstorms, flooding. There should be enhanced communication and coordination, so property management professionals can play a more significant role. The other point is about village houses. In terms of resilience against flood, I think the design is not up to standard. I have emphasized this point repeatedly. I think the government should do more to help the owners enhance the resilience against flooding. So improvement works should be put in place, resources should be provided to help them. Another point is this. Only when we arrived at mid-century or towards the end of the century will we consider whether to have managed to realignment, that is to move the coastal defense further inland. In fact, this is a common concern for coastal developments. If the project is situated close to the coast, there is always the request for the defense to be put in place. So this is really their concern. It really impedes the development incentive if they're required to put in place all these anti-flooding measures as well. Another point is about publicity and public education. Every now and then we see people approaching the shores to watch the waves, and it's really a danger. It endangers themselves and others. It's not a criminal offense at the moment, but I think something should be put in place to deter these people from going out. Perhaps a fee should be charged, because if something goes wrong, if the person falls off the cliff, then a rescue operation will have to be mounted, and that's a danger. They should be fined, in other words. Undersecretary, thank you. About property management, I think this is a very good suggestion. In fact, at the moment, we have this channel of communication with property management companies on matters such as storms and flooding, and of course we can ramp up our efforts so that they get information more quickly, and that they can put up doorway, flooding flood boards, etc. Now about housing estates and resilience against flooding. Now, after all, we need to have regard to the fact that these are private properties. Now, if it involves public safety, then we will intervene. For example, for Hang Fa Chun, we indeed invested in the facilities. They've built higher wave walls so that there won't be overtopping waves affecting local residents. The third point, at the moment, we don't see a need to move the shoreline inwards. Near the shore, we usually have public open space, waterfront promenades, and not necessarily residential developments. As for penalties, now I appreciate this suggestion. This may be rather complicated. We do have an API. It shows two brothers going out to watch the waves, and they're advised not to do so. Of course, we can always enhance public education. Mr. Ambrose Lam, thank you. Chairman, the weather is fickle. Every now and then, perhaps every decade, we encounter an extreme weather event. In 2018, I read from the news that along Justice Drive in Admiralty, there was torrential downpour and people got flushed down the hill, and it was a horror. Now, according to this paper, our stormwater drainage system is as good as that in Shenzhen. About 10 years ago, when I had an exchange with the Shenzhen municipal government officials, I was told that they would learn from us about combating flood. Now, it seems that they've improved in leaps and bounds, and it's now our turn to learn from them. So I want a confirmation. Second point about the flooding in Wong Tai Shin in 2023, I think it is still fresh in our minds. The Wong Tai Sin Center and also the MTR station were heavily flooded. Now you mentioned the use of flood barriers. If another torrential rain such as the one in 2023 happens again, how much time does it take to erect the flood barriers? And will they be effective? Right, about this Wong Tai Sin incident, I will give the floor to my colleagues in a moment to see if they have anything to supplement. About exchanges with mainland cities such as Shenzhen or other cities around the world, there is always things we can learn from each other. Now, other cities may find Hong Kong faring quite well, but we have a hilly terrain. It's a major challenge for us, especially when we have surface runoff coming down the hill. In fact, for the Wong Tai Sin incident, this was exactly what happened. The reservoir catchment was overflown, and then the surface runoff came all the way down to the shopping mall and the MTR station. In fact, since then, we have done a number of things. We have enhanced the drainage capacity. And last year, we also sought funding approval to build a stormwater storage in Morse Park in Wong Tai Sin. So with these works put in place, we should be able to handle another torrential rain. And about the flood barriers, we talked to the MTRCL as well as the link, and that if another downpour happens, they should be able to set up the flood barrier very quickly. Now I will give the floor to my colleague about the details. Mr. Mok from DSD. Right, the question was how much time would it take to set up the flood barriers. Technology is developing very rapidly. It takes a very short time to install the flood barriers. Last year, when the typhoon struck, I personally went to Wong Tai Sin, especially the spot where the heavy flooding occurred. And by the time I arrived, the link staff had already installed the flood barriers, so it could be done very quickly. The other point is about the reporting mechanism. The Hong Kong Observatory has developed a new technology that certain locations they can now predict the rainfall, and that notifications can be sent to people's mobile phones 2 hours in advance, informing the mobile phone users whether torrential rain will happen at their locations. And we've also told the property management sector about this. Mr. Kenneth Lau. Because of climate change, we have more frequent extreme weather events such as heat wave, torrential rain, and the climate change threat is getting more and more imminent. Apart from improving infrastructure as a preventive strategy, the major strategy is to achieve carbon neutrality and control greenhouse gas emissions. I understand that your bureau and the EEB have been sparing no effort in this regard. I'd like to know more about cutting greenhouse gas emissions and also carbon neutrality, whether we'll be able to achieve the target ahead of time. Undersecretary. Well, I think that the EEB will be in a better position to answer this question, but let me try to answer that as well. We have a dual target. By 2035, we seek to cut carbon emission by half comparing to the 2005 level. By 2050, we strive to achieve carbon neutrality. And on this front, the EEB has put in place a number of measures. We, for example, promote electric vehicles, and we also want to promote waste reduction and the use of clean energy. That is why in area 123 of Cheung, a facility will be built for the promotion of using clean energy and for reducing carbon emission. At the same time, the Development Bureau also encourages the construction sector to reduce carbon emission through various means. We also collaborate with the EEB on the use of hydrogen energy. So these are the efforts we're making in order to achieve carbon neutrality.
Well, some of them fall within the EEB, but I think you need to coordinate with the Bureau. So we have the index regarding the global warming and the greenhouse gas emission. But let me supplement. We have the BIM Plus. The enterprises have to fulfill the ESG requirements. And last year, I think it was last year, we have strengthened that if we seek GFA waiver from the Buildings Department, all we need to do would be to get the BIM Plus. Now there is a need for provisional assessment. It's only when they measure up to a certain grade before there would be any waiver of the GFA. So this is to enhance the grading. In other words, the decarbonization would be much better. Dr. M. Wendy Hong. Thank you, Chairman. A member talked about 2023. We experienced the torrential downpour. The Kowloon East, Wong Tai Sin in particular, suffered severe flooding. There are 15 improvement measures to tackle the flooding problem. Are they going in tandem? Are you prioritizing any one of them ahead of others? Wong Tai Sin, Hong Kong East, the most vulnerable flood-prone area, would they be prioritized? Now, when you are building the stormwater storage tanks, if we suffer from extreme event before they are completed, what's going to happen? In the northern metropolis, in the light of climate change, you would review the drainage, stormwater drainage system. In the Technopole, there will be a 200,000 cubic meter water storage tank equivalent to 80 square meter, and there will be stormwater storage tanks to be built. In the northern metropolis, do we need to have the stormwater storage tanks? Now we have the wetland which can store a lot of stormwater. It is a natural storage facility. How can you give full play to this natural storage in addition to the artificial stormwater storage system? In 2023, the rainfall was once in 500-year period, and this is it is 140 mm per hour at its worst. Now we use 200 return period, which is 140 mm per hour. So the rainfall at the time was so severe that exceeded the design parameters. So since that torrential downpour, we have amended this. We have exceeded 150 mm now. Looking with hindsight, in Chai Wan Wong Tai Sin, the flooding was caused by some catchment areas being broken. And in Quarry Bay, for instance, where I live, some of the drains are blocked. So we have really enhanced the emergency measures. we've done two things in terms of hardware. In Chai Wan and Wong Tai Sin, we have carried out the drainage work in the roundabout there. We have some openings there included. Now, $8 billion was sought last year for some projects with a view to improving the stormwater drainage. Now, we have 15 projects that they will proceeding in an orderly manner for completion in 2030. In terms of Northern Metropolis, we're on the same page, Dr. Hong. We're not really focusing only on the underground stormwater tank, storage tank. We have the wetland, and in Hong Shui Kiu, for instance, there is a big park where, in the event of torrential downpour, can act as stormwater storage. We don't need that big storage facility there, because the park would serve a very good function during rainfall. And also you have to consider the river course, the river streams and so on, when you consider the drainage issue. Mr. Butang, Chairman. Now you are adopting this hold the line approach to deal with the mid-century scenario. We're not talking about a long time down the road, about 20, 30 years. And you have land formation in the near term to extend an area 137 in Cheung, for example, and also the Kai Chao artificial island. Area 137 is on the eastern coast. The the artificial islands are in the central waters, and in Sunny Bay there will be a reclamation. The same can be said about Tsuen. For different locations, how to assess whether you adopt the same approach, or are you going to be adopting different approaches? The Protection of Harbour Amendment Bill has been enacted. Presumably there would be more enhancement works that will be undertaken to improve the harbour front. So are you going to be looking at this holistically, or are they small-scale projects that have got nothing to do with drainage? Third, in Hong Kong, from time to time, we encounter problems of expedient connection with the stormwater drains. So this is also relevant to what we're talking about today, and that is how we can detect the problems and prevent the problems. Chairman. Now, for the waterfront reclamation, the strategy would be the same. Now we have the breakwater there, or the wave wall, and we hope that we will be able to cope with the sea level rise and the storm surges in mid-century. There is very little difference in terms of intermediate and very high greenhouse gas emission scenario for mid-century. Now we would set aside some allowance. There are 75 years until the end of the century. Nobody can tell what the carbon emission would be, or the sea level would be like. We would leave some allowance if the climate change is so severe that we need to ramp up the facilities. We still have some room to cater for that. So right now, we would deal with the scenarios in mid-century where we're confident what's going to happen, and we leave some room, some allowance to deal with the situation 75 years down the road. And we would then be confident that we will be able to deal with it. Now, Victoria Harbour, for the small-scale work, like the board work, the East Coast board work, for instance, we would bear in mind the wave action that the CEDD already touched on this a moment ago. There were 11 spots where we will carry out work to deal with the intermediate and high greenhouse gas emission scenario. We're focusing on the central part and eastern part of the harbor. Mr. Tang also talked about the expedient connection of the drainage. And this is causing foul odor emitting from the drainage system. The EPD and the other departments would be trying to identify the problem. In Junlong, we have the dry weather interceptor at the Nala to make sure that the sewage will not be finding its way into the Nala. Thank you. Mr. Perry, Chairman, thank you. The Development Bureau and the CEDD are proposing this integrated strategy. I am in support of that. Now we have, we're trying to have this ideal of making Hong Kong a place to live, to work, to enjoy, and certainly, I mean, if we can add to travel, it would be so much better. I mentioned this. There are low-lying areas in Hong Kong that the government has done so much. Tai O and Lei Yun Bun are cases in point. Lei Yun Bun is a place I'm more familiar with, and this has mitigated a lot of the concerns. Now, from the tourism point of view, I'd like to say this. Now, the shoreline of Lei Yun Bun it seems to me that you're adopting a hold-the-line approach there, but the facilities there have taken up some of the waterfront. That the access road into Lei Yun Bun is very narrow near the Tin Hao Temple. People will have to squeeze into the access road before you go to the quarry. It would be really inaccessible. Now, with this new facility there, people will be going angling there, or they will be having a lot of adventure on the rocks. And I think that we should consider some element of tourism there. The Lei Yun Bun area is pretty narrow. It's really a bit of a spectacle to watch the passing ocean liners. Is it possible for you to provide some sort of a boardwalk on the waterfront so that people will have an alternative access to get in and out of the Tin Hao Temple? Under Secretary? Chairman, whether we can provide the boardwalk, how feasible it is, I'm not sure whether my colleagues have anything to add. Whatever project we carry out, we're adding value to the place. I defer to my colleague as to whether they can supplement on this proposal. Mr. Fong, Director Fong. Now we are talking about the coastal hazards. All the initiatives that we carry out are intended to tackle this. Mr. Yu made the recommendation. I think I can have a word with the relevant bureau to see whether this is a policy intention. If it is possible, we are only delighted to have a look at this. Lantau South, there are tourism projects, and we have a lovely ecology there, and this is a wonderful place. Mr. Yu, Chairman, we don't see any potential development for the quarry, and I think we can take advantage of the coastline to go all the way to Cheung. Chairman, if I may, in Area 132 in Cheung, we consider linking it up with Lei Yun Bun. I'm only too happy to have more words with Mr. Yu. Yes, indeed. Hong Kong is a place to live, to work, to enjoy, and to travel.
Next, Deputy Chair, Mr. Andrew Lam. From the perspective of urban development and urban infrastructure, I'm fully on board with your proposal. I think we need to take a pragmatic approach. There are so many things we cannot control, even in this day and age. So we should focus on what we can manage. Now, coming back to the integrated strategies, inevitably we need to discuss the standards. My suggestion is this. Because of climate change, there is a rise in sea level. However, storm surges and sea level rise affects not only low-lying areas, it affects housing estates as well, especially basement car parks. Our city is strewn with skyscrapers. In the event of a power outage, there'll be a total paralysis. People can't even go up and down the buildings. So, do we have any protective measure? Will there be any new standards, guidelines? That's about urban management. Now, whilst I support the integrated strategies, I think we should think ahead, because when we take forward the Northern Metropolis or the reclamation project in the future, we'll be facing the same issue. In terms of building service installations and other facilities, this should be incorporated in future development to combat the risks. Undersecretary, now Mr. Lam made a very good suggestion. Allow me to share this with you. Now, there are circumstances in which we can only take responsive actions for sewage treatment plants, etc. These are important facilities. In the event of downpours, we put up flood barriers to protect the facilities. This can be done very quickly. Now, Mr. Lam just talked about building design such as a basement. A basement has its merits, but during storm surges or torrential rains, the basement could become flooded. And this is something that we must bear in mind in the design of buildings in the future. So, of course, we will continue to pay attention to these things and also the impact brought about by climate change. Mr. Ban Chen. The administration will take forward the 3 strategies: adaptation, resilience, and management in preventing flood. I fully agree with this approach. Especially in recent years, we have taken forward various projects such as stormwater storage tanks and other anti-flooding initiatives. Now, when it comes to management, I'd like to give this example. Unbeknown to the general public, in fact, in Chun Long, up the hill in Chun Wan, it's an area prone to flooding. That is because of the natural streams and channels along the hill, and after the rain is stopped, there might be boulders coming downhill and debris which cause flooding. As it's a natural channel, the administration's management is different. There are ecological concerns. Fish, fauna, flora shouldn't be disturbed. So because of the runoffs, a natural stream is formed, and because it's part of nature, the government will not make substantial changes. That causes a major problem with stormwater drainage. So how will the government tackle this situation? That it's in certain areas, natural streams will be used for stormwater drainage. The next question is about discharge of stormwater. In some places, flood barriers will be used. Say in Sham, storm surges are common scenes whenever a typhoon strikes, and there will also be flooding in local areas. Now, the government may put up flood barriers, but it's really minor works or regional works. We can adopt district level strategies to cope with flooding incidents at individual districts. But on the whole, does the government have resources? Does the government have resources for the district level staff to cope with individual flooding incidents? About natural river streams, of course, they carry certain ecological value. They should not be disturbed. But let me give you this example. In fact, after the 7th of September 2023, in Tai Long Wan village on the southern side of Hong Kong Island, there was a flooding incident. It involved a natural stream. Now, I checked the spot, and like Mr. Chen said, because of the boulders gathering and the debris gathering at that location, the river stream got narrower and shallower. And in the end, we had to remove some of the debris and boulders in order to enhance the natural stream's capacity. So it's not just about ecological conservation. We need to have regard to other circumstances as well. Another example, the DSD distributes sandbags to individual flood-prone villages as a preventive measure. We talk to the owners of buildings and remind them to put up flood barriers as well. So we don't ignore individual flooding incidents at the district level. There are different ways to tackle them. Right? If no other member would like to speak on the topic, then that's the end for this item. The Development Bureau has prepared a very heavy paper for our benefit. In fact, we have rarely seen something like this in years. Even this PowerPoint presentation contains 40 pages. I think one important message to take away from here is that for developed areas in Hong Kong at mid-century or at the end of the century, the major strategy to be adopted is to hold the line. There is no need to move the coastal defense line further inland, even in the face of climate change threats. But of course, we will continue to keep in view the situation. We should also put in place suitable measures to prevent flood. I'm sure that technologies will be deployed as well. Right, next item. I see the team of officials are standing by outside. The next item is annual report on implementation progress of heritage conservation initiatives. On an annual basis, they submit to us the report and analyze their initiatives on heritage conservation. A number of members have pressed the button requesting to speak. Let's wait until the administration is ready. Secretary for Development will take the floor. She will say a few words, and then there'll be a PowerPoint presentation. Chairman, this is an annual report, so perhaps I will just ask Mr. Leung, a commissioner, to deliver this report. Thank you, Chairman. Since 2009, the Development Bureau, on an annual basis, has reported to the electrical panel about our work. This paper details the latest progress about heritage conservation initiatives since June 2024. We have a number of highlights such as optimizing heritage to tell good stories of Hong Kong, collaboration with the mainland, public education, publicity, assessment, and also the Heritage Fund. Now, on leveraging heritage to tell good stories of Hong Kong, 60% of the 340 government-owned declared monuments and historic buildings could be opened up through different arrangements, including museums and other buildings under the Revitalizing Historic Buildings through Partnership Scheme. We also encourage the NGOs collaborating with the government to open up the heritage historic buildings as much as possible for public access. We want to make it convenient for locals and visitors. The AMO prepared virtual tours, in fact 18 of them, and these are available on the AMO's website. For those who are interested, they can go to the website and enjoy the historic buildings anytime. On the Hong Kong Tourist Board's website and also Tourist Information centers, the information is also available. The virtual reality exhibition will allow the users to learn more about the history of the relics, and they can also learn about the history behind the relics. We also deploy drones to take footages of the relevant buildings to make the experience more multidimensional. Now, we've also ramped up information available online on the website of the AMO. We also have the geographical information system on Hong Kong heritage. It provides the different features such as the locations of these spots and also keyword search. We also have a mobile version. In order to support the tourism sector and individual travelers, we've made available information of declared monuments, historic buildings in batches on the website. They're also categorized by building type, areas of interest, etc., to enable the tourism sector to develop themed routes. Now, the following is a simple demonstration of how you can have access to the list of these spots. For example, if you click this in the menu, you'll find various lists that are themed, including the residences of former celebrities, education, healthcare, etc. We also have a list that includes the address of historic buildings. If you click on the address, you can access the GIS through the hyperlink. Further details can be found here. Just a click away, you can access the AMO website and you'll learn more about the declared monuments. We've also included a quick access link on the home page for easier access. Now, on a regular basis, we work with the Hong Kong Tourist Board. We disseminate the most up-to-date information about the relevant heritage tourism activities and also virtual reality tours of historic buildings. Leveraging on the professional knowledge of the Hong Kong TB, we can publicize the relevant heritage buildings and also enhance the tourist interest. We also disseminate information so as to create synergy. We also help promote heritage tourism. Now, for example, the Development Bureau works closely with a working group on developing tourist hotspots so as to optimize resources and showcase tourism products that carry unique characteristics of Hong Kong, so to support tourism is everywhere in Hong Kong. As mentioned in the paper, we make use of the rich heritage resources in Hong Kong. We share the information with the Hong Kong Tourist Board. Take Central as an example. The Hong Kong TB has dedicated a page called Old Town Central, featuring information on dining, arts, culture, and historical attractions in the area. Now, this is also another thing that intrigues a lot of people, and that's about dinosaur fossils and archaeological finds. On the 23rd of October 2024, the Development Bureau announced the first discovery of dinosaur fossils in Hong Kong. And with the AMO's and the experts' guidance, we continue to excavate fossils in Port Island. In order to enhance the knowledge on dinosaur fossils among the public, we set up the Dinosaur Parlor at the Heritage Discovery Center in October last year. We showcased the archaeological finds in Pork Island so that members of the public can have a closer look at the fossils. And we've also started the relevant restoration work. We also work with the IVPP.
I now turn to cooperation with the mainland. Since November 2021, we have entered into MOUs. We have entered into the fourth MOU now to take forward the collaboration with the mainland. There have been 3 exhibitions covering the Ningnan built heritage and the Qilu culture in Shandong. In October and November last year, there was the Greater Bay Area Cultural Heritage Forum, and the GPA, Hong Kong, Macau, and the mainland are launching this education heritage trail to showcase the heritage, sharing the same route, and all the details are posted on the web. Coming up is a mega thematic exhibition. We are working with the National Authority to launch the Tang Dynasty exhibition. In terms of publicity and education, to enhance public awareness and interest of heritage, we have organized fun days, the Heritage Fiesta, and the 2024 Heritage Fiesta cover Chinese and Western features. And in 2025, the Heritage Fiesta will be taking place in Q4, which will be focusing on films. In terms of community engagement, there would be integration of sports or culture into sports. We have activities focusing on young people to organize workshops for them and guided tour and site visit. We are also using the social media to bring the public up to date. We have the YouTube platform and 50 videos have been posted on it. In terms of identification and assessment of items with heritage value, we have started the study of buildings between 1950 and 1955, and we'll be considering incorporating some of them into the list for grading. As for declare monument, we have 130 DMs. More will be added. We have got the support of the AAB for 2 historic buildings to be included, and that is the main building of the old Chanjuk Hospital and also the Kwang Fuk Chi in Central. The procedures are being gone through, and once approval is given, subsidiary legislation will be submitted to the Council for endorsement. As the Built Heritage Conservation Fund, it was set up in 2016. $3.6 billion have been set aside for this purpose, and we have the financial assistance for maintenance scheme and funding scheme for public engagement. 14 projects are being implemented. The former Lau Fau Shan police station being revitalized, and also the guide dog academy in the former Lau Fau Shan station. We are assessing the 7th batch of application at the moment. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner. It's now time for questions. 5 members are on the list: Dr. Wendy Hong, Mr. Ma Fong Kwok, Mr. Andrew Lam, Vice Chair, Mr. Perry Yu, and Mr. Ben Chen. 4 minutes. Dr. Wendy Hong, please. Chairman, thank you. I must declare that the enterprise that I work with is involved in heritage conservation. I've got 2 questions. Now, it seems that we are very ossified in adopting the modern day standard to assess the historical buildings. Now, there is a building of 70 years which has a very good architectural value. It was built in 1970s. It was built according to the safety standard prevailing at the time. Now, there is a big gap compared with the existing building. Now, the staircases are really fantastic. They have a very good value, but they do not clear the 5 safety standard. And they are 2 mm, too narrow. It's just like the fingernail size. And that wasn't approved. And they had to build a platform to build another set of staircases for compliance. Now, if this building is not conserved, it doesn't present any problem. But if they are conserved as heritage, then it doesn't measure up to the requirements. So I hope that we would be more pragmatic when we look at the historical buildings. We should not use the modern day standard to measure the old buildings, because that would take away the motivation to conserve buildings. Second, Tinkau Road, Castle Peak Road, the Homi Villa was revitalized. And now, how are you going to deal with the exhibits inside? Then you have the airport core project exhibition center, which has been around for 26 years. And many of the exhibits are inspirational to people today, and I hope that the exhibits would be handled properly. Secretary? Chairman, I defer to the Commissioner regarding the exhibits in Pak Lao. The first question is about the attitude. Now, for historical buildings, if we are to conserve them or preserve them for the purposes of admitting them to the public, meeting the public access, it's only fair that we have to assess them and approve them. If the department were to use today's standards on these buildings, it may not be a desirable approach. But as far as I understand, the departments are prepared to exercise some flexibility. And the AMO and the commissioner would offer technical support, and in their communication with the departments, they're doing an awful lot there. However, I take note of what the member has to say today. I'm not most familiar with that project myself, but if we're so rigid and adopt today's standard and apply that to the old buildings, and this is not something they would like to see happen. Commissioner, about the Homey Villa and the exhibits there, certainly they are valuable. According to our latest information, the exhibits in Homey Villa have been transferred to government departments for preservation. And we do have the digital record of these exhibits to see whether there would be any opportunities to showcase them to the members of the public. Well, Dr. Hong referred to this specific case. Perhaps you might wish to take this up with the administration after the meeting. If there are alternative means which is more flexible, all well and good, but if nothing can be done about it, then it is a bit of a shame. I think it's well worth having a look at this to see policy-wise whether some flexibility can be exercised or to loosen up some of the rules and regulations. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok, Chairman, I'd like to affirm the work undertaken by the Development Bureau, the AMO, and the Commissioner for Heritage. All these built heritage is a valuable asset for Hong Kong. Not only should we preserve them, we should make them available to the public and create some economic value. If we harness these assets, we will be putting Hong Kong on the map. I think for the Development Bureau, we have to bear in mind that they are technocrats. They may not be familiar with the buildings. If they can keep an open mind and work in collaboration with the business sector and the academic sector, it would be very good. In paragraph 4, it says that there are 71 DMs, 277 historic buildings, and 200 are made accessible to the public, and there are some that are not because of privacy concern and safety. Now, these are valuable assets. What difficulties are you experiencing to prevent you from achieving this, and how are you going to be overcoming this? And in paragraph 10, the HKTB has created the Old Town Central, and the Victoria Park Central and Green Heritage Trail is launched. And also there are guided tours for the Heritage Fiesta 2024. I think this is a very good project integrating culture and tourism. And they go down very well among the residents and the visitors alike. So you're going to be devoting more resources to showcase Hong Kong. I like some 3D videos and a more itinerary for these heritage. And also in Port Island, we discovered the dinosaur bone fossils, and this is a very interesting. Not only should we exhibit them, we should arrange for a site visit, although there might be some difficulties involved. I think we should take people out there to the site to have a look for themselves. I'm wondering whether you are experiencing any difficulties. I think you should consider opening up some of the site without undermining the work of the archaeologists.
原有三
Thank you, Chairman. The member raised 3 questions. The first one is about government-owned declared monuments and historic buildings, and whether they've opened up for public access. According to information at hand, there are about 360 government-owned historic buildings, and of the 360, more than 200 are made accessible to the public. For those not yet accessible, there are a number of reasons. Some may have safety concerns. They may be situated at really remote locations that may bring hazards to the visitors, such as a lighthouse in the middle of the sea. There are also other reasons. For example, there is a need for secrecy. It may be a drug addiction treatment center used by a welfare organization or a women's shelter. There is also another group of historic buildings that are currently used as accommodation. So for these reasons, the buildings are not open to the public. Second question about leveraging technology so that more virtual reality tours can be created. Well, this is in fact what we have in mind. For the historic buildings, we want physical information plaques to be set up on the spot. The information plaques would also provide QR codes, and just by scanning the code, you can then join the virtual reality tour. Now, we have completed the installation of information plaques for 18 places, and we want to have more. The third point is about dinosaur fossils. We discovered the dinosaur fossil on Port Island of Sai Kung. It's actually next to a cliff, and our experts had to carry out archaeological studies there, and the area is closed as a result, as not to pose any danger to the public. In fact, we have excavated all the dinosaur fossils, and we are in the process of preparing them. And the next step is to conduct archaeological study. So the site itself is not a suitable attraction spot for visitors. We have excavated all the dinosaur fossils. They are actually displayed in an exhibition in the Heritage Discovery Center. Now, after fossil preparation, they will be included in regular exhibitions. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam, Deputy Chair. A declaration of interest. First and foremost, I am involved in a number of non-profit making organizations that have participated in the revitalization scheme, so they benefit from this policy. Now, I have the following comments. I welcome a systemic approach in grading post-1950 buildings. I understand that in the past, individual assessment and grading exercises were carried out for post-50 buildings, but now a more systematic approach will be taken. Now, the public's perception towards the post-50 buildings may be divergent, and there may be challenges if done in a systematic manner. From now on, a systematic approach will be taken, and the government should tap the pulse of the community on the public's affection or sentiment for the post-50 buildings. The next point is about the Maritime Silk Road. I see a lot of opportunities of collaboration with other cities. And I'm not just talking about exhibitions or conferences. The first topic is about relics, spots related to the Maritime Silk Road. And I'm sure that the government already has information in this regard. The other aspect is about exchange in terms of religion, culture, and trade. There are so many things we can go through, such as tea leaves, ceramics, etc. So we can foster exchange on the basis of the relics, and we can talk about incidents in history and the relevant exhibits, and especially since Mr. Perry Yu is here, I think we can tell good stories. There is a lot of potential. But I think the responsibility should not fall squarely on the shoulder of the Development Bureau. We have a funding scheme for thematic research under the Built Heritage Conservation Fund. I've checked the record. I think that there is still a huge balance in this funding scheme. That means we should reach out more proactively to the relevant organizations or institutions to promote more research in this regard. Now, about this Built Heritage Conservation Fund, $3.6 billion have been earmarked to fund various initiatives. I'm not sure what the balance is at the moment. I have a question about the financial viability and sustainability, and also the specific initiatives supported. Secretary. Right, the first question is about grading assessment for post-1950 buildings and our consideration. Indeed, when it comes to post-1950 buildings, according to our preliminary analysis, be it the form of the building and also the use or the uses, there are substantial differences with the pre-1950 buildings. In fact, many post-1950 buildings are residential buildings. So as the first step, we've identified some 2,000 buildings built between 1950 and 1959. And we conduct analysis on the basic information about these buildings, and then the information will be submitted to the AAB for further discussion. In fact, there is a consensus when it comes to grading assessment on post-1950 buildings. 6 assessment criteria will be adopted. The 6 assessment criteria are the same for the assessment of pre-1950 buildings, only that in terms of aesthetics there may be different views. So whilst I note the members' comments, I'd like to stress that indeed, like the member said, the AAB also conducted grading assessment on individual post 1950 buildings in the past. The second point is about the Maritime Silk Road. And the Development Bureau is not the only unit involved. We do work with the National Cultural Heritage Administration, or the NCHA, and also the relevant units in Guangdong Province. There is a need to create an alliance, and through this alliance, we hope to make a collective effort. And the members' view is noted. About the unspent balance of the Built Heritage Conservation Fund, perhaps I will ask the Commissioner to take the question. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the question. In the past decade or so, we reserved $3.2 billion for the public works under the revitalization scheme. The total commitment now stands at $2.9 billion. For the 14 projects under the first 5 batches, they are still in operation. The ACBHC places strong emphasis in vetting proposals on sustainability of the project, and if need be, further injections will be made to the BHCF to take forward conservation initiatives. That means there may be a need for future injections. Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to apologize at the outset that I do have a lot of questions. First, I'd like to thank the Secretary and your team for communicating with the tourism sector. The tourism sector has also made a lot of efforts, such as the former mental institution in High Street. We worked with the incumbent commissioner and also the district officer of Central and Western office so as to promote this former mental institution of High Street. That's good use of resources. And Kowloon City, likewise, there is this other example. We have a route developed for Kai Tak and Kowloon City. The commissioner is an expert, so definitely he will agree that we do have the prerequisite to develop another heritage trail, including the Longchun Stone Bridge, the Walled City Park, and also this stone hut of Howang Temple, the cattle shed, etc. And if you go to a show at Kai Tak, you can also visit the Heritage Trail afterwards. So we can capitalize on the relics to tell good stories of Hong Kong. On top of that, I have the following request. I first of all need to declare that I am a director of a travel agent. Historic buildings are open to the public, but mostly the NGOs will be involved. They have a different take on travel agents and group tours. We find it difficult to make a booking with them if we run group tours. So we need to make sure that the historic buildings and relics can support the development of a tourism industry, so that apart from locals, we can also promote these heritage to tourists. Another point is this. Many tourists are interested in police-related relics, and in fact, the working group announced 9 initiatives, and the former Yamate police station is the most attractive one. I understand that we just had the deadline for tendering. I don't know whether this place will be used for retail, catering, or other business operations. Now, quite recently, members have expressed concerns about the other tourist attraction in Stanley. It seems that the attraction has lost its spark. It's not visited by locals either. So how can we make them more attractive? Chairman, about the proposed Kowloon City Heritage Trail, in my recollection, there is a conservation fund under the Urban Renewal Authority to undertake the relevant work in Kowloon City in particular. In recent years, there have been developments in Kowloon East and also tourist attractions. So perhaps we can consolidate the resources and see how we can do something in particular for Kowloon City. Now, the second point is this. I think the member raised this point to me once about advanced bookings for group tours to visit historic buildings. I'll go back and look into the matter. I've always thought that there shouldn't be a hurdle just for group tours. Now, perhaps they have given priority to schools and other NGOs such that the time slots may not be ideal for group tours.
Third, about the police facilities, I've been to another facility of the police, that's former Lafaoshan Police Station. This has been revitalized into Hong Kong Guide Dogs Academy. They still have the facilities of the police station in the old days, and this is one of the examples where we can connect the past with the present to enrich the area. As to the Stanley former police station, I'm not sure that my colleague has got any information to share. Commissioner, Chairman, in Stanley, our understanding is that the site has been rented out for some use. We understand that the residents and the visitors would be fascinated by the former police station. They might take some selfies there. We will try to collaborate with the CSTB and the HKTB to see whether we would be able to provide more itineraries for the citizens and the visitors alike. Also, we will be visiting these places to ascertain the current state. And if there are problems, we are only too delighted to provide technical support to make sure that it is properly maintained. Mr. Ben Chen, Chairman, thank you. Hong Kong does boast a lot of heritage or built heritage. The government has a few dozen. That the heritage is not there. It's not supposed to be sitting there. That there should be a second life associated with these built heritage. And some of these historical buildings are rented out to certain organizations, and this is all for the good. But I'm wondering whether we can make sure that the built heritage will be self-sustaining. If you throw money at the heritage, the money collected will not be able to upkeep the heritage, and you have to keep maintaining the built heritage on a regular basis. The government will be putting endless amount of money to it. So policy-wise, I'm wondering whether you will be able to commercialize these built heritage so that we will be able to get money back from it. Second, there are 7 batches for the built heritage in the hands of the government. How many of them are lying vacant and not put to any good use? If they're lying vacant, it is really a bit of a waste. And if you keep them and you use them for storing the litter bins or for storing the documents, it will not be good enough. I think the tourist agents can creatively use these sites. Now we are talking about tourism in every single district, and we have all this built heritage in many districts. Do we have a list showing the historical buildings in government departments, and somehow we should take full advantage of them and monetize them? Third, we visit Sai Kung, in particular the East Dam. You go through the Pak Tam Chung, and there is the Kiln Museum. I think it is very fascinating to look at some of the old farming implements. If we can have some commercial elements that people can purchase something, they would be very happy. It is fun, and we can create some economic activities there. So will the government be integrating some economic elements into the KPI? Secretary? Well, some of these questions are connected. I absolutely agree that for historical buildings, whether they are declared monuments or graded historical buildings, they should not be left lying vacant. They should be put to some good use. We will collect the information when we go back. The government is holding 300 items of DMs or historical buildings, and some of them cannot be put to any use because some of them are just an arch. Some of them are just ancient slabs. We will have a look at these and see how many of them can be put to some good use, and how many of them are actually left lying vacant. We conduct some analysis and make available the information to the panel. And also, can we introduce some commercial elements? And certainly, this can be done. We're heading down this path, in fact. Now, for historical buildings in the possession of the government, when we resort to adaptive reuse, we emphasize non-commercial organizations. But starting from last year, we have loosened up this requirement. We talk about NGOs in partnership with commercial organizations. They can make the application. That's precisely what we see. There are some commercial organizations with good business acumen that can ensure good adaptive reuse. But we haven't quite gone as far as what the member said to make it a profitable project. But certainly we would be prepared to introduce some commercial elements. But are we trying to take this heritage and turn it into some profitable venture? We haven't gone quite that far. Now we're just loosening up the restrictions. We like to introduce some commercial elements and see how we go, and then we decide what we do next. So these are 2 points I heard from the member. Right, unless members have any further questions, and that's where we leave this item. Thank you very much for attending the meeting. Next item, any other business? I don't have an AOB item unless members have any AOB items. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all very much.